Well, everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer. Welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And this week, we're continuing my top 10 list of different decades of film with my buddy Nick. Nick, thank you so much for coming back on and turning back the clock to the 1980s.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been quite the journey so far. I'm excited to continue.
Let's get those synths out, get those big hair,
Right?
sunglasses to wear at night, and all other things.
Shopping malls.
Shopping malls, everything seen in Stranger Things.
Yeah, right.
So, if you like the 80s, so did whoever made Stranger Things. So, let's go play some D&D.
Put on your proton packs and grab your bikes. We're staying out till the lights turn on.
There we go. Going back to 1989, Nick, what is your film from 1989 with honorable
19,
mentions?
1989 is quite the year because the top four movies on my list are all in my top 100 movies of all time.
There you go.
I was very surprised with how many movies in 89. I mean, just going down this list, there's some excellent movies. But some honorable mentions that just were edged out. Ghostbusters 2, which I am a starch defender of. You will never find another person who goes, no, it's a good movie. Stop being mean to Ghostbusters 2. Like, apparently the only one who thinks that. Everybody hates that movie for some reason, and it's unjust.
I don't know why people hate it. Still a fun time.
It's so much fun. It's one of those. It scared me as a kid, but like, just an excellent movie. And then oddly, you people who know me will be surprised to hear that Batman 89 is not my number one. It is another honorable mention. And I joked about it with you last time we were on. Back to the Future Part 3 almost made it. It is my number two favorite movie of 1989. It's also the best Western ever made. But my number one is actually my third favorite movie of all time, and that is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I absolutely adore this movie from start to finish. It's one of those movies that I just if it's on, I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it from wherever it is. I love it. It's so funny. It's got great action. It's an excellent wrap up to a franchise that
What?
just doesn't seem to want to wrap up ever. So, they literally ride off into the sunset. What
into
better
a
way
horizon at the bottom of the frame. Thank you,
what
John
better
Ford.
way to end your perfect trilogy than by trying to do it two more times? But I mean, I've so many great lines to quote. I always love Sean Connery with his umbrella. I always remember my Charlemagne. Just and when they're in the library, I love the scene where he's hitting the thing and the guy's stamping, and it's really loud. Like, just little moments like that, and it's one of those excellent times that makes it my number one of 1989. What about you?
Spoiler alert, it is also my number one of 1989.
Hey!
So it's also my number one Spielberg movie. So there you
Oh, cool.
so
I
I so real quick, my two honorable mentions I'm going to mention are Batman 89 and Dead Poet Society. You want to
Yeah.
cry? Want some Dead Poet Society. Robin Williams is so amazing. But Last Crusade, you didn't think you could get more perfect than Raiders, and then you give Indiana Jones his dad. And then we get to have
Seriously.
Sean Connery, who's like 11 years older than Harrison Ford, but
Mhm.
looks a good 25 years older than Harrison Ford.
He sure
But
does.
oh, that dynamic is amazing. It is by far my favorite father-son dynamic, probably in movies,
Oh
because
yeah.
it's just the amount of depth that they have in terms of this distant father his whole entire life. And that whole conversation on the Zeppelin is just like, okay, let's talk. It's just like,
he's like, well, not now. What do you want to do?
And then he jumps right back into reading his Grail journal because he's obsessed. And just endlessly quotable too. And the whole beginning part, the prologue with him as a kid, River Phoenix as young Indiana Jones, just perfect.
I have a scar on my chin, very similar to Harrison Ford's, and before, like, whenever I wouldn't shave, people would ask me how I got the scar on my chin, and so I have a running gag where I tell them I started out small. Like, I was on a camping trip with my Boy Scout troop, and it sounds all legit. And then I get into the opening of Indiana Jones, and it's usually right around the I hopped on the circus train that they're like, wait a minute, something's not right.
Oh man. And I have to say, one of the greatest references in the history of film is from Regular Show, where they have that contest and they have to get the excellent hat, and it's the Crusade Knight. And he's like, pick the correct hat. And he's like, you chose excellently. Which, honestly, one of the most quoted lines I've ever quoted from a movie is like, you have chosen poorly. It's just so magical. I love it. Sala's back. Love Sala. Brody speaks this many languages. So I was like,
hello, does anybody speak English here?
Just absolutely.
Oh my God, I love it. And of course, probably one of the best lines of all time is, we named the dog Indiana. You are named after the dog.
Which also, yes, it has literally the perfect ending ever. The Raiders march into the sunset.
Yep.
You just couldn't let it lie.
No, you just could not. Monsters.
And this is why South Park made that whole entire episode about Indiana Jones.
Oh yeah, you're not kidding. That.
Oh my, Nick, let's go back to 88. So
1988, the year of our Lord. I've got only a couple real honorable mentions. A lot of these movies are ones that I've seen only a handful of times, but they're good ones. My main honorable mention is Die Hard because it's my number 2, and I only saw it for the first time in college, which I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but now that I'm thinking about it, was going on 20 years ago. So it's been I've actually been watching it for 2 decades now, like a normal person. But I just absolutely fell in love with Die Hard, and it was just, it's now like, I know the whole argument, is it a Christmas movie? It doesn't matter. Like, I've never been on the yes, it's definitely a Christmas movie side. I will do that bit to no end if somebody is in the room and says it's not a Christmas movie. I will staunchly defend that it is a Christmas movie. But we watch it every year at Christmas, like on Christmas Eve or Christmas Eve. Like, we'll just pop it on because it just feels right. But my number 1 movie of 88 is a movie that I just got to see for the first time in theaters. They did an anniversary edition in Dolby, and it was phenomenal. I honestly believe I've never truly watched this movie so intently before, because it's one of those movies that's been on since I was 3 years old. We've sat down and we've watched it, but at home, there's always some kind of a distraction. And to finally be able to see Michael Keaton on screen as Beetlejuice in all of his glory, it was outstanding. I absolutely adore Beetlejuice. It is one of the funniest movies. It's in my top 100. It is so funny, and it's just so darkly humorous too. Like, one of my favorite jokes is the football team comes in. Coach, I don't think we survived that crash. How do you think? No, do you think? It's so great. It's great from start to finish. It is I love Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis in it.
Mhm.
Are They carry the movie. Like Beetlejuice is in this movie like a Hannibal Lecter amount of time. It's like
Yeah.
15 minutes. And the movie is theirs, and Winona Ryder is fantastic in it. Keep seeing rumors that they've now finished filming Beetlejuice 2, which I'm like, I'll believe it when I'm sitting in the theater and it's about 30 minutes into the movie. Like, I feel like 30 minutes in, they're not going to be like, fooled you. It was just a prank. Like, because we've been seeing rumors for Beetlejuice 2 for 15 years now. And
Well,
I'm
Nick, cinema
want to
has
be
gotten
excited.
that desperate.
I
That
know,
is
right?
the perfect time to get a cash grab like this going.
Absolutely. And with the potential of Jenna Ortega,
Yeah.
cash it in while you can. So,
I'm s- at this rate, I'm surprised they didn't do all these things with Aubrey Plaza. And
right?
now, because it's like, you see that whole entire skit where Aubrey Plaza and Jenna Ortega were at an award show
Oh, I
presenting an
did. Yeah.
award together? I'm
Yes.
like, I feel like they're just
They were
trying.
gold.
Yes. I feel like, why didn't they try to do all these cash grabs with her? Well, they just waited for Jenna Ortega to show up.
Jenna Ortega said yes. Aubrey Plaza seems like the kind of person who's like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. Very selective,
Yeah.
playing weird nuns and shit
Yep.
in movies. Oh, so mine 1988. So let's start Italian with Cinema Paradiso. Love this movie.
List
The
of
love
shame for me.
theme, the love theme to this movie, the score, which is from Ennio Morricone, is just so beautiful, and I walked out to it at my wedding.
Oh, wow.
My number two is The Last Temptation of Christ, because boy, did Martin Scorsese leave all of his faith out right in front of us to look at. And Willem Dafoe's Jesus was one of the most bold choices ever, and it works. But my number one's Die Hard.
Nice.
Now that we've gotten the serious things out of the way,
Yeah, right?
I have watched Die Hard. I don't even know how many times watched it. I watched this since I was a kid because my mom loved action movies. She showed me action movies since I was a little kid, and
Hmm.
Die Hard is arguably the most perfect action movie possible.
It
All the
is.
characters are amazing from top to bottom, to all the supporting cast, even Agent Johnson and Special Agent Johnson, and
No
the,
relation.
Paul Gleason from who plays the the sergeant from
Hmm.
LAPD, such an asshole, and just Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber, like John McClane. Bruce Willis was the most everyman action hero in the history of action movies. And just his friendship with Reginald Val Johnson in this movie is life goals. And just the action's incredible. It's so sharp. It's like, what happened to John McTiernan? Oh, wait, he's in house arrest for wiretapping business partners on rollerball. So like, wow, John McTiernan, because like this man
I didn't know that.
gave us Hunt for Red October,
Yeah, he did.
Predator, and Die Hard. Like,
Mhm.
come on. And this movie is just so tight too from start to finish. And crazy to think that this was a sequel to a Frank Sinatra movie.
Right? That's crazy. Yeah, I find that to be the craziest thing ever. Like, can you imagine if the movie was exactly the same, but instead of Bruce Willis, it was Frank Sinatra? That would be wild.
They had to offer it to him,
I know.
and good thing he said no.
Yeah, seriously.
Because like Frank was probably like in his 60s at this
Right?
point.
Like way too old for this shit, as it were.
It would have been Lethal Weapon instead.
Exactly.
Too old for this shit.
Yep.
Oh, right.
Yippee mother effer.
Oh my god. Can't even imagine. I don't want to. Let's move on. 1987.
My 1987 is going to be a bit of a cheat because this is the only one where my number one movie of that year is technically a TV movie. But my honorable mentions are, oh, there's some good ones in this one. It's going to be hard to limit it, but like Predator, just
Yes.
I love it. Love Predator. Spaceballs is
Yes.
to this day one of my favorite movies. Uh Another John Candy, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, was I just watched again for Thanksgiving because
Yep.
that's the only time you're supposed to. And the official real movie of that year is Princess Bride. That one is
Anyone want a
just
peanut?
exactly. Everybody wants the peanut, indeed. But I, as much as I love the Princess Bride, there is a movie that Letterboxd has it on there, so I'm going to count it, and that is The Muppet Family Christmas. And
Oh,
I don't know if too many people have seen it, although apparently it's catching on because somebody just uploaded a full HD upres that they did themselves to YouTube, and it looks fantastic. Um, but this is the most ambitious crossover of our time. Before the Avengers teamed up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, before Barbie and Oppenheimer released on the same day, the Muppet Family Christmas was a Christmas special where the Muppets go to visit Fozzie's mom for Christmas. Fozzie's mom, however, doesn't know that they're coming, and she is getting ready to go on a trip to Malibu, and she's rented her house out to Doc from the Fraggle Rock. So Doc and Sprocket show up at her house to rent to stay in her
a black.
farmhouse, and so then the Muppets show up, and Fozzie's like, I brought all my friends with me. And she cancels her plans and decides to stay. And Doc's all pissed because he's like, well, this is supposed to be my nice, quiet Christmas. And like, as more and more people start showing up, like the Swedish chef comes, he invites a turkey. The turkey is the New Yorker who doesn't realize that he's been invited as Christmas dinner. As the turkey and Gonzo are fighting, they hear carolers. They look outside. It's the Sesame Street gang. The entire gang of Sesame Street is caroling outside. And now, guess what? Because of the snowstorm, they're also spending the night at Ma Fozzie's farm. And so Miss Piggy's the only one who's not there. They have to like go out and find her, and because she's trying to make it through the snowstorm. While she's trying to make her way there, Robin, Show, and Kermit find a Fraggle hole, and they go into Fraggle Rock, and they sing a song with the Fraggles, and then they all get back, and Miss Piggy shows up, and they have a giant carol sing in the living room where all the Sesame Street guys and the Muppets are all singing Christmas carols, and it is just the perfect Christmas movie, minus Michael Caine. So like it is literally the Muppets' best Christmas movie until A Christmas Carol came out. And it's just one of those things that I grew up with, watched it every year. It is like number one in my heart. I have it on a little USB stick because we couldn't find it any other way. And my son, it's his favorite movie now. We watched it. We've already seen it like 15 times since last weekend. So like it's fantastic. If you have not seen Muppet Family Christmas, make it this year's Christmas wish. Just go on YouTube and type it in, and it's there, and it's fantastic, and it's full of great
You
one-liners. I
sold
love it.
me. I will be watching this year. And
It's
how'd that all fit in 47 minutes?
Yeah, they get it. Oh, and I didn't even mention that you get a little cameo from the Muppet Babies because this movie came out around the same time as what was it, Muppets Take Manhattan, where they had that live action Muppet Babies scene. They reused those the Muppet Babies there, and you get the Muppet Babies also. So it's everything. It's a crossover. This is the reason that I'm obsessed with expanded universes because it's like if they can be in the same world as these guys, then man, anything is possible.
Oh my God. I certainly will be watching this. Wow, crazy. I'm down. I will be watching it. I will let you know.
Nice.
So 87 is a crazy year for me because seven of my top 100 movies are from 1987
Wow.
because I love RoboCop and Predator and Good
Yeah.
Morning Vietnam and Raising Arizona and Lethal Weapon and The Princess Bride. But
The
my
Untouchables.
my number one is The Untouchables.
There you go. Ah, I got it. I was gonna say you just listed off the rest of my top 10, so that must mean like I put
Which
the Untouchables in there.
I love The Untouchables. I remember my mom showed me this when I was a kid. Yes, when I was a kid. And just Sean Connery as
Mom's
well.
fun.
Look at all the Sean Connery on this list. It's like
He ruled the decade.
absolutely. It's like he sends one of you to the hospital, you send one of them to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. In the most Scottish Irish performance you're ever gonna find. Right next to his Scottish Russian performance from on for Red October. Kevin Costner is such like a good guy, Elliot Ness in this, and the filmmaking is amazing.
Yeah.
Like De Palma was just showing off making this movie, but Robert De Niro as
Mhm.
Al Capone is the most obnoxiously over the top Italian man villain you're ever gonna find in a movie. What? It's like you're allowed talking a badge, and just it's like I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burned to the ground. I'm gonna piss on all the ashes. Just he had so much fun in this movie.
Yeah, he did.
And Sean Connery was so great in this movie. He earned that Oscar. And just this is and the music, Ennio Morricone also keep popping up around here, is so good. And they had who was it? It was either Gucci or Versace did the all the clothing for this movie. And these are some sharp dressed people.
Yeah.
The costume design is amazing. I love
This
this
was one
movie.
of those movies where I saw it one time and the next chance I got, I bought it. Like
Oh,
I it's very rare that I buy a movie after one watch because I want to make sure that I like it. It's worth adding to the collection. Like I've gotten a lot more picky, but I saw this one and I was just like, I need to own this one right now. Like right now. And of course,
absolutely.
I sadly I saw the Naked Gun version of the stairway or the steps thing first. So that kind of ruined that scene because now all I'm seeing is Frank. Like I'm like, does he pick up a quarter at one point? Like,
Well, now you can go all the way back to Battleship Potemkin and see where it all started.
yeah, right.
Which I recently bought the 4K of this because upgrade. Because
Nice.
I had the same DVD for probably 20 years.
Oh wow.
Like I had that DVD for a long time. It got a lot of mileage. And finally upgraded. All right, 86.
86. 1986 is a fun year. I could play a joke on you and say that Care Bears 2, A New Generation, is my number one, but unfortunately it is not. It is, however, in my top 10.
There you go.
Probably it's there purely because I've probably seen it the most times out of every movie below it on the list. Like we watched that
That
movie on repeat.
is fair.
Love those Care Bear cousins. But actual honorable mentions, we've got Stand By Me, which is fantastic.
Mhm.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which not to spoil too much, but have you seen the most recent season of Only Murders in the Building? I died. I died when Steve Martin did that bit.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic. I used to watch Ferris Bueller every day. I every day, every time I stayed home sick from school. At a certain age, my mom put it on for me, and it became a ritual. This and The Princess Bride, they were sick day movies, and you watch them when you're sick, and you
There you
feel better.
go.
And then of course Aliens. I couldn't get
Yep.
by without mentioning that one because that one was number one for, well, actually that's not true. That was number two for a while, but I recently realized that I would be so wrong if I didn't have The Voyage Home at number two because like
Mhm.
really I love that one a lot more. But my number one is a movie that when I was, let's say, fifth grade, we got pulled into the auditorium for some reason. For some reason, they were like, "End of today is movie day, and you're gonna sit and you're gonna watch a movie." And this was when we were living in Tokyo, and the auditorium was connected. It was part of the high school. We went to the international school, so it was every grade from like kindergarten to 12. And so we went all the way to the high school to their auditorium, which they kind of had like almost like a stadium seating style thing.
Mhm.
And big full movie screen comes down and they turn on a movie I had never heard of, never seen before, but I was so enwrapped by it that it is to this day one of my favorite like theater going experiences, and that is The Labyrinth.
Nice.
I was maybe a little too young for it, maybe just the right age. I don't know, but I fell in love with the music. It's like it
Mhm.
was right up my alley because at that point I already loved Beetlejuice, and it has such similar vibes. And but it was Muppety, but it was not Muppety,
Mhm.
and David Bowie and his wonderful package.
Yeah,
like,
you
like
can't not see it.
you cannot see it. It's like I have a friend who literally she became a woman to this movie. Like she realized what the opposite sex was because of David Bowie, and we tease her to this day because she always talks about it. But like even as a dude, I'm like, something what's going on there? But like it's such a wonderful movie. It's so whimsical and fun and weird, and like the guys with the hands and they take their heads off like
Yeah.
freaked me the hell out. I'm like at a certain point I'm like Nate Bargatze. I'm like I don't think I should be allowed to watch this movie. I'm like I gotta call my mom like to come get me. This is too much. But like it was such a magical experience that first time, and that like we watch it all the freaking time. My kids love it. We
Mhm.
downloaded the song and we sing it. We dance magic dance
Mhm.
in the car. Like it's just an excellent movie that I feel doesn't get held up with like the best of fantasy like it should, because it definitely is.
I was definitely late to the game with Labyrinth
Mm,
because I didn't watch Labyrinth when I was a kid. I always watched Muppets. Uh, definitely watched Dark Crystal a lot,
mm.
but
That
never
was I see that's
Labyrinth,
me with Dark Crystal. I was so late to the game on. I only saw it like 3 or 4 years ago.
which we I just rewatched Labyrinth over the summer for my what turned out to be my mostly Muppet movie marathon.
Nice. That sounds like an awesome time.
Three Muppet movies and then Labyrinth.
Nice.
And it's such a fun time, and David Bowie is so great, and then just have young Jennifer Connelly,
Yep.
and still going, which is crazy. Good for her.
Yeah, she is.
So for my 86, my two honorable mentions: The Fly, Goldblum, and Cronenberg. My number two is one of the I feel like the unsung Scorsese films, The Color of Money. The fact that this is a sequel to The Hustler seems like such a weird choice for Scorsese to go and make a sequel to a movie that was released 20 something years before this that he didn't even make. But it's so good. Paul Newman is so good. Uh Tom Cruise is such a cocky asshole, and just the music and everything. But my number one is Aliens.
Nice.
This is one of the peak action sci-fi movies ever, and just the perfect balance of those horror tinges, the action, the sci-fi world that you're stuck in. You're having like these heavy duty like space Navy SEALs taking on xenomorphs,
Mm-hmm.
and you get the Queen and get your claws off her, you bitch. And
They
also
mostly come at night.
it's
Mostly.
mostly, and Paul Reiser's somehow like still
He's
kicking
such
it
a
now. It's
Paul
such a
Reiser is a bastard coded bastard with bastard filling in that movie. I
yes.
swear. Hated him so much,
Like,
which is so wild because I knew him from Mad About You.
yeah,
Like, I've never seen that side of him before.
it was so good. And then of course, Bill Paxton just
Game over, man.
game over, man.
I love the scene where the robot does the knife thing. Like, ah, I
Lance
love it.
Hendrickson. Just Sigourney Weaver got nominated for an Oscar for this, for
Did I
Best
saw that when I was
Actress.
putting my list together because I go down the Oscar categories just to make sure that I didn't miss anything, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, no way, but then I was like, but it's James Cameron. Like James Cameron always manages to sneak in. Like, what a surprise! James Cameron was the only director that could get a genre film nominated for an Oscar. Like,
The only one to get a genre lead actress
yeah, right.
nominated for an Oscar. Because James Cameron just pushing that pile of money over to the Academy, just being like,
Exactly. You want me to
just
save cinema for the next 35 to 40 years?
years.
Because I'll do that for you.
I'll, I'll do it for me, and you'll benefit. um, and like Michael Bean was so hot right then,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was.
and then Alien 3 ruined it.
I have not seen Alien 3 because everyone tells me that. So I'm like, oh, I'm good.
Well, they
Uh,
kill everybody else off screen before the
that's what
movie
I heard.
starts. So, just like, why
Yeah.
would you do that? But anyway,
That's not the one that Fincher did, right? That was the Fincher did the one after it. Oh, that is the one. Oh, okay. Yeah, I heard you.
and Fincher's like, I had no control in this movie.
Yeah.
This was a hot
Yeah.
mess. I hate it. Um, but yeah, Aliens. That's how you make a sequel. James Cameron knows how to make a sequel.
Sure does.
He certainly does.
Yeah.
And
He's proven it time and again at this point.
and all I have to say is, I say this every time he comes up. I wish that you made as many Terminator movies instead of Avatar movies. Just putting it out there. Because nobody should make any Terminator movies except for James Cameron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently, that has been proven. Alrighty, 1985.
1985, the year of my birth, sir. After this, every movie that we talk about will be older than I. But
BN before Nick.
before Nick. There are quite a few movies on this list here that I have to say I really love. But once again, like 89, my top four are yeah, I have to do the math. I don't know if Spies Like Us actually makes the 100. It might be in my top 200, but the top three movies on my list are all in my top 100. Starting off with Clue. I absolutely adore Clue. This is such a freaking fantastic movie. We
Yes.
just showed it to the kids for the first time ever just before Halloween, and my middle loved it. She's just like, this is so fun. I love this. Like, and it really is. It's just you don't expect a movie based on a board game to be good. Even in today, like Jumanji, like you don't go into these going like this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
And yet somehow Clue is, and it's such a part for the cast. Like Tim Curry just owning every scene that he's in, especially at the end when he's going back and forth and running and yelling and telling him it's like to make a long story short, too late. I just I love every minute of it. Clue. Anyway, not my number one.
Which
Look at me. I got on a tangent. My number two is Goonies, which that is one of those movies where it's like you either see it as a kid and you fall in love with it forever, or you don't and you hate it.
yeah.
And then and then those two people marry each other. So, I showed my wife Goonies when we were dating, and not gonna lie, that one might have been that one was dangerous. I almost didn't have a wife then. Like, why do you like this? Because it's awesome. To every little boy's dream to go on an adventure
With pirates and
with pirates
treasure
and treasure
and
and
Italian mobsters. It's the Fratellis.
yes, exactly. And Corey Feldman.
Yes.
But my number one is also my number two because it's my number two favorite movie of all time. Which we're gonna hear that a lot this list because the 80s, man, they rocked.
Yep.
And that is Back to the Future. And it's a perfect movie. I think it's a perfect movie. It's not my favorite movie of all time, but I think it's a perfect movie. It is so perfectly done. Another movie that I actually just for the first time ever got to see on the big screen because they did an anniversary edition for the or I don't even know if it was an anniversary day. It was Back to the Future Day. It was the day he goes he goes to the future in
Mhm.
in Back to the Future 2. They played Back to the Future 1 on that day. So I just it's another movie where it's like when you sit and you just really watch it, it's like the perfectly constructed screenplay
Yep.
from start to finish. Sure, there's the question of what is time travel, how does it work, but like you
How
can
did I get here? And
it's
the days.
the it's one of those things where it doesn't matter. Like they got it close enough and you accept it. I remember in college, me and my buddies, we tried to poke any hole we could into this franchise to see if the time travel didn't hold up. We found one, but a deleted scene helped us resolve that. So
Yep.
that was it. And it's just this first movie, that could have been it. He could have literally gone into the car at the end and flew roads where we're going. We don't need roads and flew off. And we never would have seen these characters again. And it wouldn't have mattered. Like
Yep.
the fact that we got to and that they actually continued that story was freaking amazing. But this movie is just perfect from start to finish. And I absolutely love it.
There's no arguing with that. It is a perfect movie. And it just does everything so incredibly well. The music, the writing is ridiculous. Like the amount of detail and the all the gags and the references of the subtle things that change. Gigawatts. Um,
That was a gigawatt.
and they made all of us convinced that Christopher Lloyd was an old man.
Yes, they did. I was like, how did they do that?
And then you see him now, I'm like, wait a minute, Doc Brown hasn't aged.
It's so weird that you say that because like for legit, I always just kind of accepted like, well, I mean, obviously, Christopher Lloyd, he went to the future, he got the skin rejuvenation, he got new blood.
Yeah.
He looks, and that's why he looks so young.
Looks so young. But no, like really, I got confused because of this movie. I'm just like, wait a minute. How
Yeah,
old
right.
was Christopher Lloyd in this movie?
Weird that they typecast him though as a guy who has a time machine. Although I guess technically it wasn't his time machine in Star Trek, but they definitely use his ship as a time machine.
There you go. Back to the Future is one of my two honorable mentions that I have here. My number two is Ron from Akira Kurosawa, his King Lear adaptation.
Okay.
It is a gorgeous, epic film, and this is like old man Akira Kurosawa at the end of his career, just being like, "I still got it, kids." And it's just such an epic samurai film. And my number one, because I love almost everything that Terry Gilliam does, and it's Brazil. And this
Okay.
movie is crazy. And it is also the most perfect representation of bureaucracy you're ever going to see in the history of cinema. And it's all the infuriating. So you're
I can
just like,
imagine that.
it's like, you got the wrong document signed. You need to get this one signed from records and come all the way back. It's just like, just feeling the rage through the screen. And it's such a crazy ride in terms of what's real and what's fantasy. Robert De Niro's some kind of like rebellious, like terrorist heat vac engineer who pops up like 10 minutes in this movie for some reason. And
Okay.
like Jonathan Pryce is such like the perfect I hate my job and I just want to daydream all day protagonist. And everybody else is completely insane around him. And also, Michael Palin from Monty Python tortures and murders people, all with a smile on his face and casual. I'm just like, what the hell is this movie? And you need to watch the actual Terry Gilliam ending and not like the super nice, prissy ending that the studio wanted to slap on this.
Uh,
And it's such a creative movie. And if you are into like weird, creative expressions of just a madman's cinematic output like Terry Gilliam, it's right up your alley. And if you're not, probably gonna hate it. But I warned you, so there you go.
Gilliam stuff is hit or miss for me, and you've described it well enough that I'm curious.
It's
If
like,
it's streaming, I'll definitely add it to my queue.
there you go. Back to the year it all went to shit, 1984.
1984, indeed.
Authoritarianism everywhere.
Funny enough, 1984, the bottom of my list on this year. Actually, he came out in 1985. It went wide in 85, so that's what year it was
There you go.
on. Oh boy, this year we've got, I mean, just straight up honorable mentions. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Love it. Like, it's one of those, like, you love it, you hate it, you love it, you hate it. You don't really like it growing up, but then you see what's worse in the Indiana Jones franchise, and you go, I was too mean to the Temple of Doom. That
I
movie's
was too
actually really
harsh.
fun. Search for Spock. Once again, we've got Christopher Lloyd fighting our beloved captain on the hill. I love it. It's surprisingly, so it's an interesting movie because I looked up the budget difference between Wrath of Khan and Search for Spock. Everything is like $80 million more expensive looking, and you can tell it's no longer an indie. I love it. The Terminator is an excellent movie. The only reason I don't love the Terminator more is because the Terminator 2 exists, and it's just like, wow, you could do that with this concept. I love it. It's and my number two favorite movie of 84 is Johnny Dangerously. Just a hilarious Michael Keaton movie. If you've never seen, you must add it to your list. He's a gangster and it is a parody. That's all you need to know. But my number one is in my top 10 favorites of all time, and that is Ghostbusters. I just absolutely adore this film. It is one of the funniest movies of all time. It is an excellent adventure movie. The whole concept is wild. And like the more I see it over the years, the more I fall in love with it. And
Mhm.
then I like when you go and you do, you're like, I'm gonna listen to the audio commentary on this DVD track, and you hear Dan Aykroyd explaining what their original idea for Ghostbusters was, and how it wasn't just like one firehouse. It was like set in the future, and there are Ghostbuster units all over the place. And it's like,
And they're like the
that
losers.
sounds so cool.
Yeah.
Like, why in this year, 2023, we're getting a new Ghostbusters movie? They haven't implemented that idea yet. Maybe that's what they're going. Maybe that's what they're doing. I don't know. But I love Ghostbusters. It's so funny. Just the lines, the things that comes out of Bill Murray's mouth in this movie.
Is this
Oh my.
true? Yes.
Yes.
This man has no dick.
Are you, Alice, menstruating right now? What's that got to do with it? Back off, man. I'm a scientist. That whole opening where they go down to the library and he's like, "You're right, Ray. No human could stack books like this." It's just so great. And then the part with Slimer, "It's right here, Ray. It's looking at me." I must say that line constantly to my wife regarding our children. Like, where's the big one? She's right here, Ray. She's looking at me. Venkman got slimed. That's great, Ray. Save some for me.
Which just, oh my god. Can you imagine if they had, like, they got Eddie Murphy like they wanted to?
I honestly, like, that would have been wild. I don't think he would have fit with them.
Well,
Eddie
I know
Murphy
they
is too big.
completely shrank the role down, which was kind of a dick move, and then
I always felt bad for Ernie Hudson
Yeah.
because, like, he was the perfect fourth guy, like almost the straight man to their zaniness, and he was so great in both movies.
Yeah.
And I really hope that, because it looks like he's in this new one too, and I hope he's got a bigger role because every time he shows up, he's fantastic. But even like Harold Ramis, he's so low key, like the funniest one on the team, and he's not doing it on for, like, Bill Murray's big, Dan Aykroyd is big, but Harold Ramis is so small, but the things that he says are just so funny.
The weird smirks he makes.
Oh my god. And the fact when he tries to be funny and he thinks he's funny, but no one else does. It's such a character that he created with Egon. And I love these guys. And then I grew up with the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters. So, like, Ghostbusters has been a part of me for forever. And just I love
Annie Potts, so like, Ghostbusters, what do you want?
Ghostbusters, what do you want?
And Rick Moranis, are you the gatekeeper?
Oh god, he's so.
And then when you realize what they're talking about, gatekeeper and keymaster, and you're like, wait a minute. You turn into an adult and you're just like, wait a minute, I got Shrek here.
Oh! I like her because she's a client and she sleeps above her covers. 4 feet above her covers.
So fantastic. Which, yet again, perfect segue, because Ghostbusters is one of my honorable mentions.
Nice.
And so is Terminator.
Excellent.
And my number one, though, is Amadeus.
Okay.
This movie is, from Milos Forman, is so beautiful. And just everything from a technical standpoint is just impeccable. And this is the most amazing movie about the pettiest little asshole in the history of cinema.
Which one? They both are super petty.
It's just, F. Murray Abraham gives a career-defining performance as Salieri in this. And the way that this film deals with faith and the fracturing of, like, low-key is just like, wow. You kind of forget about this because he's just being so petty all the time. But, like, this dude's like, I prayed to God that he would kill my father, and just like,
and he did.
And he did.
And he liked it.
He's basically like Loki. I was made for a glorious purpose. And now you weren't Salieri. You were made to play second fiddle. and to a whiny,
Mhm.
obnoxious little shit.
Yeah, he is
And Tom Hulse is so amazing.
so good in this role. Yeah.
Just his performance as Mozart. It's just ridiculous. And both of them earned those best actor nominations.
He did.
And F. Murray Abraham deserved that Oscar because he just kills it from his whole telling the story to like the moments where like that the scene with the requiem at the end is just incredible. Such an incredible scene. And him realizing and seeing a real master at work just so that he can know you are not one,
Mm-hmm.
which is like ego shattering. And it's so fascinating. And it's like one of those moments where you think that you're so good at something and then you meet somebody who truly is better than you
So
and you're
much
just
better.
like
It's like I quit.
it's like I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
God, I know. This
There's
is
just
funny enough. I just saw this movie for the first time like 3 months ago. Like
there you
it had
go.
been on my list of shame for years. I'm so glad I finally got to it. It was one of the it was like my white whale. Every time I'd be like, all right, it's been on Netflix for like a year. I have had it on my list. I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch it today. And I go on and it's like it's no longer there. Like it's on another service, and I don't have that service. Like it kept happening to me. So I finally got to watch it, and I'm really glad I did because it is absolutely everything you just said. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
fantastic. Back to 1983.
1983 is a one of the years I'm the most ashamed of because I only have I've seen 11 movies from this year. I was like, oof, I need to up my game. So like the ones that I've seen, although I've seen 11 movies from this year, two of which I've seen probably more times than any movie in the history of ever. So that makes up one of which is A Christmas Story because how can you not? It's on every
Yeah.
year. We literally watch it over and over again on Christmas Day because we just turn on TBS and let it run. Another one. This was my third sick day movie, and that is Trading Places. I
It's
talk about a movie that you don't get a lot of the references to until you grow up. That's a good one. Uh, those two are phenomenal in that. But my favorite movie of '83, it should not come as any surprise. It is Return of the Jedi.
Jedi.
We'll talk about the shirt movie later, but
Yeah.
the Return of the Jedi probably for the longest time, like as a kid, my favorite Star Wars movie.
Mhm.
How could it not be? The Ewoks, the Jabba the Hutt stuff, the final battle. You've got your lightsaber battle, your ground battle, your spaceship battle, all happening at the same time, all set to that amazing John Williams score. Just it's it's amazing. It's perfect. It's the perfect culmination to the perfect trilogy. It is just it's it's the best. It is. It's so good. Everybody has seen Return of the Jedi, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. It's the perfect conclusion to the Star Wars trilogy. I'll even say the six movie saga. The perfect conclusion. I love it. Even the Yub Nub version and the new version with the la 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 like the new redone song where
Wait,
they
they changed that?
you didn't know that wasn't the original version ending.
No, I don't recall listening to this new version.
So
Wait.
they had the original ending was Yub Nub, but the Yub Nub, oh Nub, Yub Nub, and it's just the Ewoks singing. But
Yeah.
then when the special editions came out in '97, they added the song they showed like different scenes. They show Coruscant. They show
Okay, yeah.
and that song that's playing. It's much
I'm like,
more
I could have swore I
somber.
heard Ewok saying that in Return of the Jedi at some point, which they do. It's just not at the
Yeah,
ending, I guess.
yeah. They no they cut out Yub Nub completely. Like the only way to watch Yub Nub is to get the original VHSs or to have the 2004 DVD re-release where they had the the original theatrical cuts put on a DVD, which I own, and I'm so glad I do because that was the last time the theatrical
Why?
movies
Because
were
George
ever put
Lucas
on
couldn't just
DVD.
let it lie.
No, yeah, it wasn't my original
No.
vision, so I can't let you see it ever again. I hated it, so you can't like it either. Oh, and also Greedo and Han, they shoot a little bit more at the same time in this version. But I haven't added McClunky in yet because I'm not done screwing with you. But yeah, so these versions are the ones my favorite ones to watch because they're the original because you get Yub Nub. But I really do love the new ending song because it's a more conclusive
Mhm.
song for the saga as opposed to Yub Nub, which is very much just the end of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. And yes, again, you see Hayden Christensen,
Oh yeah,
Force Ghost.
that very confusing choice,
See,
but
but
whatever.
now Ahsoka just reinforced it because, like,
Oh
this
yeah, yeah.
this is
I'm like,
just
if they hadn't done that, then he would never have been able to come back. Like you can't like how do you do it? You'd have to get somebody else. Like so I guess in the end it kind of worked out for him.
which just Jedi. You know what's crazy? When Clerks came out, that was legitimately an argument. What's better, Empire or Jedi?
Mm-hmm.
And now, like, most people have conceded that no, 100% it's Empire.
Yeah, I mean,
And it's just like, come on, show Jedi some respect.
Jedi is probably the one that I can quote the best. Like, just there was a time where I'm sitting in like it's just on in the background and Vader comes onto the Death Star and I'm doing both parts with him and Moff Gergerard and I'm going back and forth and I'm doing the entire thing. The Emperor is coming here. That is correct, Commander, and he's most displeased with your apparent lack of progress. We shall double our efforts. I hope so, Commander, for your sake. The Emperor is not as forgiving as I am. Like I love that whole opening with him. I love the stuff in Jabba's palace, even though it's the most ridiculous plan in the history of ever.
You mean
Done, done, done,
nods?
done, done, done.
Which I just have to say, Family Guy lampooned Star Wars in the most perfect way
They nailed
possible.
it. They nailed that one so good.
And you can even tell they don't even want to do that one.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say like, and that wasn't even the good one. That was the one where they let like their third string do that.
They brought Roger in to be a character in one of them. Oh my god. They had Cleveland show characters.
Did
Oh man. So Jedi's up there for one of my honorable mentions. The Meaning of Life is as
Meaning
well.
Life,
The
yeah.
Monty Python. Just dying, death by being chased down by a bunch of naked women.
Naked women. I mean, hey, if I gotta go, that's how I hope to go someday.
And what's crazy is my number one is from Lawrence Kasdan, but it's not Star Wars. It's The Big Chill. This
Okay, I've never seen
movie
that one.
is such an interesting look at how a friend group evolves over time. And a group of friends are all brought together after the death of one of their friends who kills himself. And they're spending this time all together again. Glenn Close, Kevin Kline, Tom Berenger, Jeff Goldblum. John and William Hurt, and just this whole group, like this incredible cast, and the group dynamics are so interesting in this, and the music. My mom had the vinyl of The Big Chill,
Nice.
and it is wall to wall just hits. And just the opening as they're preparing for the funeral and playing I Heard It Through the Grapevine by Marvin Gaye is so pitch perfect. Cause like that's the tricky thing when you hear about things of like people that you used to know and you were so close to for years, and just like you hear it from like, did you hear what happened to this person? And just this movie is incredibly relatable, especially as I'm getting into my 30s. And it's like, did you hear about this person getting married? Or did you hear this person died? And I'm like,
Mm,
what? And
yeah.
those
Yeah, when
kinds of
someone you
things.
went to high school, you find out died some random way, it shakes you, and you're like, no, we're still young. That's not supposed to happen.
And it's just this film's such a fascinating look at that. And the cast is insane. Like the amount that they got this many famous up and coming stars into it. Tom Berenger was still a sex symbol then. Jeff Goldblum was the weirdo one of the group because, of course, he is, because he's Jeff Goldblum and he's an alien.
But also a sex symbol.
Yes. How many sex symbols can you get into one movie? You got one Jeff Goldblum and Tom Berenger.
And you said Glenn Close,
Yeah. And Kevin Kline. Just throwing
who was for some reason also a sex symbol.
Fish called Wanda. Oh,
Seriously.
oh man. Mr. Fish Odor. Oh, Bob, you're swarthy like an immigrant. Oh my god. Yes, I love Bob's Burgers. But yeah, that is 1983. I feel like there's gonna be Star Wars peppered throughout the end of this one.
It's gonna be
1980,
star something all the way down.
yeah, honestly. 1982.
1982, man. Well, there's not a ton to talk about in this one. I do want to give a special shout out to the filmed stage performance of Sweeney Todd from that year with Angela Lansbury.
And was that the George Hearn one? I think.
Think that
Here, wait a minute.
George Hearn, yeah, it's on the poster. Yes, it is. That is the first time I ever saw Sweeney Todd, and I fell in love with that show. Yeah, you've got it right there. Nice. I didn't realize that it was on DVD. I actually should probably get it because I really do love that one. I love the Johnny Depp one too, but like there's something about just the stage performance of it all. Like the full orchestra, the full music, like the fact that it is from start to finish the musical as opposed to the theatricalized version. I just I love this show, and it is so dark and so gross, and I love it. So I couldn't not mention that one. Also, my new favorite horror movie of all time, The Thing, is at number 2. I just showed it to my kids. My 8-year-old and my
Nice.
11-year-old both wanted to watch it. They're like, they were so tired of these. How come every Halloween we only watch movies for kids? I want to watch a scary movie. And I'm like, all horror movies typically have some kind of sex in it, and we're just not ready for that conversation yet. So what movies don't? The Thing and Alien. So we watch both. And we actually just watched Alien the other day, and I want to watch Aliens now too, which also apparently is pretty clean. So I'm actually really excited to watch Aliens again. But yeah, we watched The Thing, and they're sitting there and they're oh, I don't know if you saw it, but on Slack. Like, why are they shooting at the dog? That's not nice.
You won't be saying that once you find out what that dog is.
And I'm just like, yeah. Well, I didn't see. Honestly, they didn't think it was that scary. They thought it was just more like gross than anything else, which is fair.
It is gross.
But I think it's such a well-crafted movie that just it's one of those like those I don't not dream scenario is not the right word, but like it's one of those movies where it's like to think about it that like what would you do in that situation? The answer is you die. you would be taken over by the thing and you'd die. There'd be no surviving.
Yeah.
But it's
Not all of us
and
are
that's
Kurt
what makes
Russell.
it freaky. Yeah, exactly. Not all of us are Kurt Russell, indeed.
I only kind of have his hair.
Yeah, like no matter how hard you try, you will never be Kurt Russell. But my number one is a Star franchise, and it is one I already mentioned, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. It is my second favorite Star Trek movie of all time. And it is the one that I probably have seen the most because we had it on VHS and we used to watch it just cause. And like from a really young age too. Like my dad taped it off a TV. So like, and he loved it. So he would watch it all the time. But like, I remember just popping it in before going back to college one year. Like just it Christmas break is over. My friends are coming to pick me up. I don't have anything to do. I'm gonna watch Wrath of Khan. Like just for no reason at all. And so I popped the VHS in and I just sat there and I watched it until they showed up. And they got there right at the end, and then we all watched the end of it together. Like it's great. It's one of those great movies. And Ricardo Montalban is so freaking great in it. And his lines are so epic and iconic. At hell's heart, I stab at thee. he's so fun, and just his hatred of Kirk and the way that they take this character from the original series that I had never seen Space Seed until years later. Like I'm talking like I must have been already a father when I first saw Space Seed for the first time, because I watched some of the original series when they were on reruns, but I didn't watch it religiously. Next Generation was my trek. So that's the only one that if it was on, I'd watch. But like to finally realize like, oh, hey, yo, these are all streaming. I should watch that one. And to see it for the first time, I was like, this is awesome. So that just it's such an amazing concept that they took and they ran with. And after the quasi disaster that was the motion picture, like to come back on an indie budget and just completely knock it out of the park by simply making a submarine movie, essentially, like chef's kiss.
It was James Horner, right? Score.
Yes. James Horner or Jerry Goldsmith?
Horner did Khan.
It might have. Goldsmith did so many of them. It's very possible that he didn't do that one.
I want to know why I typed in Wrath of, and it took more than 5 movies for Khan to pop up. What's your
Seriously?
problem, IMDb? Yep,
like all the way at the freaking bottom.
Disrespect.
Serious composer. It was James Horner. You are correct, sir.
I just remember listening to the Cinephiles episode. They had Mance on, and he's the biggest Star Trek
fan.
Scott
Mance is the best. I love listening to him talk about Star Trek. He's so fucking fun.
So, do you listen to him and Steve Morris's actual podcast on Star Trek?
No, I don't. Well, I should. I already have like 4 Star Trek podcasts that I listen to. I just maybe someday. Like there's so much content out there. I'll eventually run out. I'll need
Scott Mance to come on for Wrath of Khan, and just like that James Horner score, just absolutely amazing.
Mance is great.
They love their Star Trek.
And how can you not?
There you go. So Khan is in my top 5 for 1982. I also have First Blood up there because what a movie. The King of Comedy, which I feel like is another one of those films that doesn't get enough credit from Scorsese. Oh. Number 2 is Blade Runner. And my number 1 is The Thing.
Nice.
The Thing is my second favorite horror film of all time, and we'll talk about my number 1 in 2 years as we're getting to this list. This is peak Carpenter. This is Carpenter's like best film, best directed film, and obviously you can make that argument between Halloween and The Thing, but this is the most impeccably directed one. Ennio Morricone just keeps popping up on here with scores, and this is
You've
like
kind
the
of got a
most
type.
minimalist. Doom, 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 and
Mm-hmm.
just so creepy and so unnerving. And the movie's so mysterious. Those practical effects are insane. The
They
whole
are.
chest opening up, the spider head, the blood test scene is one of the most tense scenes in the history of cinema. And that got #1 scare on Franchise Paradiso's top scares list. So shamelessly plugging.
Spoilers! I didn't listen to that episode yet. It's
Oh,
fine.
well, now you get to listen to them argue about it all the time, which
I
is
can
half
imagine
the
that
fun.
probably took them a while to decide on.
Oh, that one turned into a bit of a bit of a tense one. It was
Nice.
almost as tense as the scene. But it just that film is incredible from start to finish, and just the cast from Kurt Russell to Keith David to Type 2 Diabetes, Wilford Brimley himself.
Brimley being very un-Wilford Brimley, like he didn't
Yes,
try to get me to not have
he didn't.
diabetes once in that movie.
I didn't even have a mustache.
Seriously.
What the hell? Also has the best line in the history of film. It's like, well, F you too. And McGree just chucks the dynamite at him, just like, yes. Yes. That's one of the best placed F bombs in the history of cinema, along with an actual bomb that blew up the thing. Um, 81.
1981. Not this is also one of my most like shameful years. Not very many movies. My number two honorable mention, The Great Muppet Caper. I
Nice.
mean, it should come as no surprise. I love the Muppets, but
Just
I
mupping all
this
around.
this is one. Ooh, talk about quotable lines. One of my favorite all-time gags from that movie is the fact that Fozzie and Kermit are supposed to be brothers, and at one point they when Kermit's like sitting on the park bench and a little girl goes, "Look, Dad, it's a bear." And he goes, "No, that's a frog. Bears wear hats." That's one of my favorite Muppet lines. It's so funny. But they'll catch those criminals red-handed. What color are their hands now? Great, I love it. It's probably the Muppet movie that I watched the most growing up in the 80s, because that one was one that we had taped off a TV. So I saw that one first before I saw the original Muppet movie and Takes Manhattan. And so that one was just on repeat. But my favorite movie of 1981 is Raiders of the Lost Ark. It is the best movie in which the main character is completely inconsequential to the plot of all time. Like there's no other movie that does that better. You can't take the main character out of any other movie and have the exact same outcome of the movie. And I love that. I love that about it. I'm gonna give Spielberg credit. He did that on purpose, 100%. But it's just a fun ride from start to finish. It is, like you said earlier, like it's an excellent adventure movie that's only made better by the addition of Sean Connery. So it just gets better from here. Well, I mean, it goes down a little. Well, I mean, chronologically, it just gets better from here.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
I really enjoy Raiders. It's a great movie. Love it.
Yeah, I have Raiders is my #2 because just absolutely incredible film from start to finish. #3 is Escape from New York because I just
Okay.
love that John Carpenter and Kurt Russell. Call me Pliskin.
That's one I need to revisit because I never saw Escape from LA. So I need to rewatch Escape from New York first because it's been too long.
Get your eye patch ready and your camo pants and your mermaid man driving a cab. Ernest Borgnine as Cabby. My #1, no surprise to anybody, is The Road Warrior, Mad Max 2.
Oh, did Mad Max come out that year? Yes, I was expecting this.
So just this movie is one of the most incredible adrenaline rushes of a film until you realize what George Miller could do with $150 million budget instead.
Right.
That was the thing, because like The Road Warrior was my number two favorite movie of all time until Fury Road came out, and then I realized, no, this is what George Miller actually wanted to make. And just what he did with such little money. Because
Mm-hmm.
like he haven't had even less money for the first Mad Max movie.
The
But
first
this
Mad
one
Max
is
movie confused the hell out of me because I was like, this is not what people told me that these movies were about.
this is
And then
just
I saw this,
Australia, isn't it?
yeah, it's just Australia on a Sunday. But the second one, I was like, okay, this is what I was expecting.
This is just Australia on a Friday night. Uh,
Right?
Leather bound and everywhere. It just Mel Gibson probably has like what 15 lines in the whole entire movie. He is that perfect, like stoic, silent, gritty protagonist, like the Dollars trilogy, The Man with No Name. And that chase, the climax of this movie is so intense. The stunts are incredible, and they just keep blowing things to shit. That was a real explosion that blew up that whole entire refinery, and it's just like that was real money in flames.
Yeah.
It's just
1982. What
crazy.
else would they have done?
And special shout out to Bruce Spence, the gyro captain from this movie, because Bruce Spence has been in the Mad Max movies, was in the extended editions of Lord of the Rings. He was in the Star Wars prequels. He was in the Matrix trilogy. He's been in the Chronicles of Narnia movies. And this man just keeps working. Good for that guy. He keeps popping up and stuff. He plays like the most random characters in all those movies, though.
Hey, those actors need work, and we need those actors.
Exactly. Just like 6'8" of him in his like yellow legging leotard in this movie. Just this is such a wild film, and like the what would pro wrestling would have done without the World Warrior? You wouldn't have the Legion of Doom. You wouldn't have Demolition. You wouldn't have Chris Jericho, the Ayatollah of rock and rolla. You just wouldn't have any of it. So there you go. Special thanks from all of pro wrestling.
I don't
And
know. I
we
kind
made
of
it.
feel like you made me like it less now.
Well, that's your problem, Nick.
That's me. That's me. Yes.
And then we made it to 1980, the beginning of the 80s. And I have a sinking feeling I know what your number one's going to be.
My number one movie of all time, Superman 2. No. Let's see.
Kneel before
On my
God.
list, my incredibly shameful list of only 7 movies that I have seen in 2000 or 2000 in 1980. Uh my top 5 are The Blues Brothers, The
Nice.
Shining, Caddyshack, Airplane, which is should be number one. Airplane, any other year, Airplane, and you would have been number one on this list. But unfortunately, you came out the same year as Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. And I'm sorry, there's just, it's like Michael Caine says in Miss Congeniality, there's just no beating that. Like, it's just, it's my favorite movie of all time. It was very apparent to me right around the high school age when I started to actually watch these movies as like real movies, not
Mhm.
just the thing that you put on every weekend because it's your favorite.
Yeah.
And like I was reading the books at that time. So like everything that they talk about in the books with the force and everything Yoda does, just like it just hit me on such a deeper level that just aside from the fact that the movie is just awesome start to finish and just blows me away, like the technical aspects. Like I love watching all the behind the scenes stuff on how they made this movie. And it's just wild. Like the fact that when they call attention to it in the special edition, like behind the scenes, where they're like, if you actually pay attention, you can see through the snow speeders like solid parts, because the only way we could film that was to kind of like overlay the film layer. So like you can actually see like, and we cleaned that up and we digitally made it look better. But
Mhm,
like that's so cool that they had to figure out ways to make this movie viable.
mhm.
And all the miniature work that they did, the models, the AT-ATs are awesome. I absolutely love that design. They're so creative and just impractical in every way. But I love them. I don't care. Like
Shut
it's
up. How dare you talk about my giant metal camels?
the all-terrain armored transport, which no one ever thought, hey, what happens if they spin around us with a giant tow cable? Like,
You know that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back?
oh, Jesus, Tony, how old is this kid? I don't know. I didn't carbon date him. He's on the young side. Oh, like, seriously, that whole that whole opening sequence is fantastic. The way that it plops you into this world and they just
Mhm.
throw so much stuff at you. It spawned the expanded universe the way that it is, or the way that it was. And just like
Legends?
little the legends stuff. Yeah. I hate that name. Because it's a big yellow banner smack to the face every time I see it. But the like the bounty hunter we ran into at Ord Mantell changed my mind. Like, what does all that mean? I want to know more. And you get to eventually. And it's just it's super cool. And the way that they end it, the cliffhanger, the giant battle between Vader and Luke in the Cloud City, just it's the best music, it's the best fight. It is so brutal. Like Vader is a monster as he's just like going to town on Luke with his lightsaber, and you see him toying with him at first, and then he starts to really mean business, and it's oh, I every second of that scene is just
No,
amazing every
I
time.
am your father. It's
That's
impossible.
impossible. And I built C3PO. Well, that's improbable. And the midichlorians, just microscopic bacteria in your blood. All right, well, if you're not going to take this seriously, then I'm getting at it. Oh, also, the best robot chicken episode of all time because of this movie. So it's fantastic. And then we mentioned it. This movie has, I mean, this franchise has spawned so many parodies. Spaceballs is in my top. Star Wars Robot Chicken, Star Wars Family Guys, every version. Thumb Wars. Have you seen Thumb Wars? That's a thing that I definitely was dying to watch when they announced it. Like, I watched the Star Wars porn for the plot. Like, I love everything Star Wars related, except for everything that came out kind of after 2015. So it's just it's such a fun series. It's such a fun movie altogether. This is the best of the three original ones, so that's why it's my favorite.
We got Yoda.
Look at me. Yes, Jedi Master. Take your doing my will.
He is such a cranky little shit. When you first meet Yoda, that's
Mine, or I shall help you not.
oh,
Yoda, you seek Yoda.
oh, Kirby. Just as Piggy rolls up in here.
He's
Frank
a little
Oz.
more Grover than he is Kermit or Piggy.
So obviously that's definitely up there. That's my number two. Raging Bull was my number three. But my number one is also my second favorite Kubrick, my favorite horror film of all time, and that
Oh.
is The Shining. And I can watch Jack Nicholson act like a complete insane psychopath psychopathic killer from start to finish over and over and over again. Because here's the thing, he started that way. Look at that face when he's getting
Right?
the interview.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those eyebrows and everything.
He was already great. They pegged him. Those ghosts, they pegged him coming in. They're like, we got one, boys. And speaking of create a franchise that created the best parody of all time for the Simpsons Halloween special, it is
You mean
the best.
The Shinning?
The Shinning.
You want to
The
get
best
sued for
parody of all
copyright
time.
infringement?
Oh my god. Hey, that's odd. Usually the blood gets off at the third floor. It's so fantastic. I remember watching The Shining for the first time. High school, I don't watch horror movies. I absolutely didn't when I was in high school. And my friends came over. It was Halloween. I had a bunch of people over, actually. And this was a rare occurrence for me. I usually was just the one that goes places. And someone brought The Shining, and we were watching it. And right at the part where the lady is in the bathtub and her face starts falling off, my, at the time, 7-year-old sister came downstairs, and we're like, ah!
This film, the score is the most haunting, unnerving, just effed up thing you'll ever listen to. Jack Nicholson just eats this up. If you ever see behind the scenes of him going like, I'm an axe murdering, getting prepared for here's Johnny scene, it's just, oh my god, Jack Nicholson is a psychopath. And poor Shelley Duvall, because Stanley Kubrick was a piece of shit and tortured this woman. And poor Scatman Crothers, he made it way all the way around, and then Jack was like, Rah! Just chops him down. Just
poor Willie.
Jack Nicholson is just terrifying, and just the visuals, the whole scene in the bathroom, which also one of my proudest moments of quoting a movie ever comes from The Shining. As I was at work walking across the front of our suite, and one of our admins stopped me because she tried to introduce me to one of our office assistants, and it was just like, Shane, how long have you been here? And I'm just like, I've always been here. Because honestly, it kind of feels that way.
It feels like that way sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it be that way.
You're going to look back at the 1921 Christmas staff party picture and just see Shane Kanto standing right there in the center, mutton chops and all, and just being like, oh my god, I have been all along. But this movie is chilling to the bone, and yeah, Stephen King hates it because did Stanley Kubrick ever find a book and just be like, you know what, I want to adapt this perfectly? No, this is a cool idea.
Stanley Kubrick is not the person to adapt things perfectly. He's the person you let do whatever he wants to do, because it will turn out interesting, almost guaranteed.
This is a cool idea. I'm going to do that, and then chucks the book out the window. Literally,
pretty much
chucks out the window.
He sure does.
But that is a wrap on the 1980s.
It is. We did it.
And we'll be back again at some point for the 1970s. Get out your bell bottoms and your disco tapes, and let's BG this up.
That's right. We're gonna Saturday Night Fever all over this place.
Indeed. But Nick, thank you so much, as always, for coming on. And I have a lot of fun doing these. This is a fun, just like turn back the clock and enjoy talking some movies.
Agreed. I appreciate you having me on.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.